I think you will be able to do it. Thank you.
Yeah. I was looking for the share your content, share your presentation thing.
Yeah, sure. Sir.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Kaman. Sorry for this hiccup.
Sure. A very, very good afternoon. All the delegates who are attending this lecture session today with us. And with the memories of Mr. Ajay Desai, who left for his heavenly abode last month. In his fond memory, again remembering him, and pushing off to the next this particular 16th session. The Wildlife and Weed Protection Foundation brings to you the 16th lecture of the series, Conservation of Forest, Environment, Wildlife and Allied Natural Resources. I would request all the participants to put their mics off, please, so that the sound doesn't echo. Thank you very much for that. For the series, Conservation of Forest, Environment, Wildlife and Allied Natural Resources. In this session, Mr. Nitin Kakodkar from the Indian Forest Service and Principal Chief Conservator of Forests, Wildlife and the topic status management for wildlife challenges of wildlife conservation, a holistic perspective. The lecture elaborates on the current status of wildlife and various issues, dimensions and challenges involved in long-term conservation of wildlife in the state of Maharashtra. Mr. Nitin Kakodkar, he is an I.F.S. officer of the coveted Indian Forest Service and belongs to the 1987 I.F.S. batch. He has a rich experience of 33 years in the field of forest and wildlife conservation, having served in various departments, sectors and capacities in the government. He joined as Deputy Conservator of Forests and Officer on Special Duty at the State Secretariat of Mumbai after completion of his probation in Gadchiroli district. He is the recipient of the gold medal and 2 silver medals for his meritorious performance during the Wildlife Management Diploma, which he underwent at the Wildlife Institute of India. He was actively involved in the management of Tansa, Pansar and Karnala wildlife sanctuaries in western Maharashtra. Subsequently, he was involved with the management of Talova Andhari Tiger Reserve with a successful and a fruitful innings of 4 years. The services rendered by him earned him the coveted Sanctuary Asia Wildlife Service Award 2001 and a felicitation at the hands of the Honorable Governor of Maharashtra State. His experience in wildlife conservation enabled him to continue another prestigious tenure of 3 years at the Melghat Tiger Reserve. During his tenure, the Melghat Tiger Reserve was adjudged and ranked amongst the top 10 tiger reserves in the country. He again had a prestigious and a fruitful tenure of 4 years as a Joint Secretary in the State Secretariat Mumbai, whereby he was involved with the formulation of the ecotourism policy and the state forest policy. He had a short tenure as the Chief Conservator of Forests Research, Education and Training at Pune. Subsequent to his promotion, he had 2 short tenures as an Additional Principal Chief Conservator of Forest Social Forestry, Pune, and Budget Planning and Development at Nagpur, where he continued contributing his valuable experience in the research, education, training, and administration. Currently, he is the Principal Chief Conservator of Forests and Chief Wildlife Warden of Maharashtra State. Mr. Kakodkar, most welcome, and I'm obliged to you for agreeing to be on this lecture platform for us. I would now hand you over the session, and I would request you to share your screen and start the presentation. Thank you very much, sir, and most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chavan. It's a great privilege to be with all of you and to be here for this presentation. I know it's difficult for me to cover all the issues related to wildlife in Maharashtra. But then, as you know, that we have got it, and that's why we will have to be quite fast. I suppose most of you or many of you are already have some background of wildlife management and in the country. Maharashtra is no different as far as most of the aspects go, but there are some things which are unique to Maharashtra, and I think I'll focus more on them. I hope I am audible. One of you can just say yes.
So your voice is a bit unclear.
Okay.
If you can just be a little bit louder. Thank you.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Fine. And, I hope you can see the screen.
Yeah, we are able to see your presentation. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So, as you know, Maharashtra is a very big state. We have different biogeographic zones. Actually, we have 3 biogeographic zones to be specific, and we have the coastal biodiversity zone, and then we have the Western Ghats, and then we have the Central Highland. And because of this variation, we have a variation in climate, we have variation in forests, and therefore we obviously have a variation of species. So right from the flamingos to few elephants, now in Maharashtra, we have the wild buffalo too as we go to the east. And we also have the Great Indian bustard. We have at least 3 species of vultures, and we have the forest owlet too, which was thought to be extinct and it was rediscovered, and turtle. So we have protected areas. Right now we have 62 protected areas. So we have 49 sanctuaries. We have 6 national parks, and we have 7 conservation reserves. And soon I think we are going to add about 10 more conservation reserves and at least 1 sanctuary. So we have an old protected area as far back as 1955, which was the Tadoba National Park. And as recent as 2020, we had the Pilari Conservation Reserve. So right from the sea level at Malwan, in the form of a marine sanctuary, 200 meters, that is the Kalsuvai Harishchandragarh. Along with the tiger, we also safeguard the wild buffalo and the Great Indian bustard and a flamingo. From corals and mangroves to rock paintings and forts. That is the variation that we have. We have a lot of religious abodes which are within these protected areas, as it is known that many of the PAs in the country also have religious places of religious importance. And we have the erstwhile Sukar block. We have a PA of celestial origin, which is the Lonar crater. 2 man-made sanctuaries like Sagreshwar in Sangli. Roughly about 9,500 square kilometers is under 62 PA, which is approximately 3% of the total area of the state. And as far as the forests are concerned, from semi-evergreen to dry deciduous, 2 grasslands is what we have. And we have PAs in very high densely populated areas, human population that is, in the form of the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, to some which are very low, because in Gadchiroli, the Bhamragarh sanctuary that we have the, if not the highest number of tiger reserves, I think we equal in India, along with, so we have 6 tiger reserves in the state, 5 of which are in Vidarbha and 1 is in Western Maharashtra, which is the Sahyadri Tiger Reserve. One of the 3 states that harbors the endangered wild buffalo. One of the most popular tiger destinations for in the past, we used to say that Ghana or maybe Corbett was one of the most popular tiger destinations, but today it is Maharashtra, and when we talk about Maharashtra, obviously we have to talk about Tadoba, which is one of the most popular tiger destinations. And we have the best compensation scheme as far as compensation for rehabilitation, compensation for human deaths in case of animal attack, as well as cattle compensation. And we have an excellent package of rehabilitation and a very good eco-development policy. In many of the states, because of the issues involved in declaring PAs, have virtually stopped declaring PAs, but Maharashtra continues to notify PAs even now. And as I said recently in the State Board of Wildlife meeting, the board has approved 10 conservation reserves and 1 additional sanctuary. The state still goes on and notifies more and more PAs. Of course, you have all heard of the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, and that is right within a city like Mumbai. So it is within Mumbai district, Mumbai suburban, and Thane district. And we also boast of 4 special tiger protection force units out of the 8 which are there in the country. So out of the 8 in the country, we have 4 here. The Thane Creek Flamingo Sanctuary looks like right next to heavily populated urban areas. Then we have another unique thing that we have is the mangrove cell. We have a mangrove cell which looks after marine biodiversity. So it's not only mangroves, but now it looks after marine biodiversity. And when we talk about marine biodiversity, of course, we have to take care of the livelihood generation of the people there living there, because as you know, without that, the support would not be forthcoming. So excellent work of livelihood generation has been done by this mangrove cell. It was set up in 2000 and it's now in the 7th year. Now, another interesting feature that I can tell you about the Mangrove Foundation is that it has a foundation. And you will be surprised to note that the kitty of the foundation is more than 300 crores. Whatever developmental projects come in these areas, they have to part with 2% of the project cost. CS or the ESZ and Mangrove Cell currently has about 300 crores. As I said, one of the highest peaks in Maharashtra, that is the Sarsubai Sanctuary, Harishchandra Sarsubai Sanctuary. The Lonar crater, which is a 56,000-year-old crater. And as I said, recently we notified a conservation reserve down south in Maharashtra, which is called the Pilari Conservation Reserve. The animals that we have are, of course, the wild dogs, the wild buffaloes. Recently, Nandur Madameshwar, which was earlier known as the Bharatpur of Maharashtra, was notified as a wetland of international importance under the Ramsar Convention, and this was an honor. And of late, even Lonar is now another second wetland of international importance, which has been notified. So most of the tigers, of course, live in central India, and Nagpur, for that matter, is called the tiger capital of India, because whether you have to go to Kama, whether you have to go to plains of Madhya Pradesh, whether you have to go to the Imravati Tiger Reserve or the Tiger Reserves in Maharashtra, Nagpur is the place where you land and then you go. So I would not go into this, because as you all know, why is the tiger given importance? Because it is the umbrella species, and the understanding is that if you protect the tiger, you protect everything under it. So where does the tiger live? Now, these are the areas, mostly central India, northern Maharashtra also. And as you go to the western Ghat, there is a population of tigers, but most of the population of Maharashtra is in the central Indian region. So what are we fighting against? What are the issues? The issues are linear developments. As you know, we are a developing country, and there has to be infrastructure development. So there are linear projects like roads, railways, canals, mining, urbanization because of the population, habitat and corridor loss takes place, and the fragmentation of habitat takes place. And there is enormous anthropogenic pressure on the habitat. Like you have the central Indian forests are subject to fire, which are mostly lit by people for various reasons. Then there is firewood collection, and there are a number of cattle which depend on these forest areas. And then we have issues like poisoning, which are many times, to get rid of a problem animal which has been killing cattle. Or you have cases of electrocution. Most of the cases of electrocution are, of course, for the herbivores to crop from depredation. But then there are many cases where big cats also get electrocuted, and that is something that we have to be careful about. And you have the hunting for bushmeat, which happens in many of the areas. Fortunately, we've been able to handle organized fishing to a great extent, but then one can never be complacent, as I always say. So this is what the tiger habitat connectivity in Maharashtra looks like. Now, if you see the red portions, the darker the red, the more is the connectivity between PAs. And the green portions are the various protected areas in central India. So, as you see, there is connectivity between the PAs, which is, and this is what needs to be protected if we want not only a gene flow, but also we want dispersal to happen. And as I will come later on, there is a problem of population in one of the districts in Maharashtra, excess population of tigers, in a very fragmented area apart from the protected area. So we have a problem of fragmentation. So dispersal has to take place, and for dispersal to take place, these corridors have to be protected. And then you have examples where you can, we have seen tigers dispersing from Tadoba to northern parts of Maharashtra, as well as to the south into Telangana to other places. And we also had recently, or last year rather, a tiger which walked from Tipeshwar, which is here, and all the way in Yavatmal to somewhere here. So it went all the way, and it has clocked, because it was radio colored, we could clock it, and it has clocked about 2,000 kilometers. Not linear, but it has gone around and then gone back and forth, and then ultimately it's now in a place in a protected area called Jnangarga Sanctuary, which is in Buldhana district. So these are the issues, as I said, mining, yes, mining or for thermal power production. Then fire, which does take place. Then we have issues like Mohawk, which results in conflict issues. Firewood collection, the amount of cattle that we have, and the firewood collection. So this is what happens. Now, this is a map of the connectivity that has been established. Now, what happens when a huge project threatens? Now, this is a project which is right at the center of your screen, which is the Human River project, or the Human Dam, which, if it comes through, is going to these two areas. So this is Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve, and then these are the forests of Brahmapuri. And we get cut off if there is a huge human dam project. Right now it is stalled, it's not taking off, but this is a imminent threat. So similarly, you have coal mining, which are put for auction, which also takes place. Then if we talk about poaching, these are things, coaching, even if it is not organized coaching, this does off and on. You have cases where the tigers are coached to a certain extent for various things like the inlines, the claws, and tiger bone. Then the issue of electrocution, as I said, this is a threat which is imminent, and we are taking care of that through aerial bunching of cables, which happens. And although a very costly proposition, we are taking it up in certain areas around. Then you see the railway lines which cut across, and as in North India, it hampers or it is proving to be a problem for the elephant population. In central India, it is the tigers and the leopards and other animals which do some. Every year we have 2 or 3 incidents where these animals get killed because of railway accidents. Now, yes, we have all these problems, but is the tiger safe, or has the tiger done well? Yes, it certainly has done well in Maharashtra. The estimate in 2006, it was 103. In 2010, it had gone up to 168, and in 14 to 190, and suddenly in 18 we have a figure of 312 plus. And I'm sure that in 2020, we certainly more than 350 plus, if not more. The only issue here is the out of the 312, 160 are in one district, which is the district of Chandrapur, and that is the problem that we have. We have seen an increase of 6% in the span of just 12 years. And the Central Indian share of the tiger population has increased from 17.6% to 30% now. So, of course, with all this kind of population, the responsibilities which we have increases, and we are well aware of that. One of the major reasons for improvement in the tiger population is the relocation of villages. And we have identified about 110 villages from protected areas which need to be relocated. And after that, already 66 villages have been relocated, and about 44 villages are to be relocated if and when, as and when we get the funds for it. Because as you know, the package of for relocation in Maharashtra is quite good, and that is why more and more villagers are coming forward. But then the issue is to get land which is selected by them, and then you have to also have the money for the relocation. But this is something which has really improved because this is one slide, if you see very carefully. Now, this the whole thing is Meghat Tiger Reserve, and if you see where the arrow has been shown, 20 villages have been rehabilitated from this area. In this area, if you see the polygon of the female tiger, they are very small. But as you go up, if you see to the right of your screen, then the polygon size is much bigger. That is, one female has to use much area to sustain herself. Whereas if you go to areas from where the villages have been rehabilitated, the polygons are much smaller, indicating that the female is sustaining herself on a much smaller area, obviously because the prey population has increased. So this is the contrasting feature where in one slide you can make out how village relocation helps in tiger population by accommodating more and more tigers. Now, if you look at the male polygon of the area occupied by a male tiger, then again you see the same thing here. If you see to the right of your upper area of the screen, we see that the polygon is not in Maharashtra. It is the Samruddhi Mahamarga, which is a highway which is going to connect Mumbai to Nagpur. The total length of the highway is 701 kilometers. and this is going to be an access controlled highway. By access control, we mean that nobody can enter the road from either side, and the width is going to be about 120 meters. So if you see 120 meters, there is going to be a wall right from Nagpur to Mumbai. So obviously there have to be passages which have to be created for people, for the cattle. The study was entrusted to the Wildlife Institute of India, and they have identified 35 wildlife focus areas. Through a series of studies, through a series of primary data collection, secondary data verification, then overlaying it on the GIS platform, and they have identified 117 or 18 kilometers, which they feel is going to be wildlife focus areas. And these are split into 35 blocks. And in these entire 117 kilometers, we in consultation with WII, agreed by the Maharashtra State Road Development Corporation, which is executing this project. They have agreed to modify the structures. They have, in the sense that the structures would be bigger than the normal structure. Additional structures would be created, and in all, we would have about 1,800 crossing structures for wildlife in the entire area, in wildlife focus areas as well as outside wildlife focus areas. So not only in the wildlife focus areas, but even outside wildlife focus areas. There are structures. So after the WI did that study, what was done was this was examined by a committee which was set up, which consisted of members of the State Board of Wildlife as well as some of our local officers. And then they went through the length and the mitigation measures suggested. They suggested certain modifications, and most of these modifications have been agreed to by the MSRDC. And only today I saw a news item that the CM said that the first leg of the Samruddhi Highway right from Nagpur to Shibli would be open by the 1st of May. So that is the kind of issue. And we already have an example on the NH44, which is the Nagpur-Jabalpur road, where these structures are already existing. And if you see, these are the type of structures which have been constructed basically for wildlife movement, to where there are forests on either side, either it is the PA or the buffer area. And there was a monitoring which was done on these structures which were already constructed from March to November. And a total of 4,500 wild animal captures were obtained from 9 animal underpasses, 4 minor bridges, and 5 animal underpasses. Now, that included about 17 wildlife species, wild animal species. So right to the people, to the wild dog, to wild boar, and so many others. So there are 17 species which use this structure, which use these underpasses. And along with WCT, there are other agencies also involved. Now, what happens when you do certain things? It's not a very easy thing to manage a protected area or to manage wildlife. Wildlife foresters really have a tough job on their hands, and they have to obviously undergo a lot of hardships and difficulties. In the process, some have been very seriously injured, some have been killed while protecting the forests against fire, poaching, and encroachment. And these are unsung heroes because nobody talks about them, and that is, we try to give them as much succor as possible, but then it is not always possible to make up for a loss of human life. So they have been working, as you know, most of foresters work in hostile kind of territory, hostile kind of areas, and fighting forest fires. Of course, those who have done it would know the difficulties which one has to encounter. And then there are, of course, retaliation by the locals when you try to undertake encroachment removal. Now, as I said earlier, that anti-poaching activities we have been able to control quite a bit. This was mainly because of association with the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, the police, and other agencies. And in addition, we have CDR analysis done of most of the poaching cases, and this has led to capture of or arrest of people or offenders. And we have been able to do that. The lower judiciary has been continuously we use the expert legal help to sensitize these people, and that has resulted in there are instances where people have been arrested right up to Delhi. So it is not only restricted to Maharashtra, but because of the follow-up, because of the CDR analysis, there have been people who have been arrested from various parts of the country. And this has, we also have a dog squad in 3 protected areas, and this also helps. And what has the result is that the organized poaching has seen a decline. They said wherever there are tigers, there are going to be poachers looking for them, for the tigers. And hence we can't have our guard down. The entire department is fully aware of this, and there is no sense of complacency. But we are doing repeated training for the staff, how to handle these cases. And at the same time, when we talk about the frontline staff, I would say that even the villagers have been tolerant. When you see videos of leopards or other animals being wounded by people with lathis and kathis and then beaten, I suppose people in Maharashtra have been very tolerant, and hats off to them. There are a huge number of cattle which are predated. Of course, partly the issue is that the compensation of human life is much better in the state, and right now it is 15 lakhs for a human death. I know that we can't put a figure to the loss of a human life, but then at least it is some relief to the people, and the cattle compensation is also high. So this is the kind of schemes, and you can imagine the problem that the local officers or the frontline staff face when they have to go to such a village where they don't face the wrath of the people. This is a very sensitive phase, and that becomes very difficult. As I said, the tiger population, yes, it has increased quite a lot, but then 160 tigers from the 312 are in one single district, and within the PA also there are about 80. That is the Tarobangari Tiger Reserve. Outside the PA, outside the Tarobangari Tiger Reserve, rest of the district also there are 60. So that is the kind of issue, and the problem is that out of 160, we have roughly 63 breeding females which have been identified. And if we consider that 1/3 of the females breed every year, so again, and we consider a litter size of 63 per litter, although most of the cases we have seen that the litter size here is about 4. So even if you consider 3, then it comes to again addition of 60 individuals every year. And where do these 60 individuals go? How do they disperse? And while dispersing, there is conflict. And when there is conflict, it results in human death. Now, this is in 2020. In fact, today the figure is 27. This was sometime in November. It was 23, now it is 27. So 4 more deaths have been added due to in Chandrapur district. So this is what we are. This is a problem which we are facing, and we need to do something about it. There is a group which has been constituted, and they are supposed, they expected to give us a report by the end of this month, which will be discussed in the State Board of Wildlife and probably we come out with some solutions as to what to do with the excess tiger population. Similarly, we have also an issue with leopard. Now, the leopard deaths this year has really been phenomenal. It has been about 170 plus leopards which have died this year, which was 110 last year. And the human deaths also due to leopard. That was 8 last year, and this year it has come to up to now it is 32 from 8 last year. Now, all this indicates that the population of leopard has increased tremendously, and that is what is bugging us, and that also has to be tackled. As I said, the number of breeding female tigers in 2023, and this is what I told you, that in one district there are 63 breeding female tigers, which is certainly an issue. And if we see the single part, that is the compact block of Tadoba Andari, but 80 tigers are there and 80 are outside, which is a very fragmented area. So the conflict is much more. But ours is a proactive state. As I said, we have 62 protected areas, including 6 tiger reserves. We have a very good voluntary rehabilitation scheme. We have 4 yes, which has added a workforce of about 450 people in the form of forest, mostly in the form of forest guard. We have a cyber cell in Amravati, which looks after posting cases around the state, and that does the CDR analysis, called data record analysis. And we have a fairly good conservation-friendly policy. Decisions are January Yojana, where 25 lakhs are allotted to village, and we try to involve as many stakeholders as possible in the whole management of the wildlife. Apart from this, of course, we have habitat intervention in the form of pothole creation and removal of weeds. We also focus on conservation education, which especially for the rural students, that we consider as very important, and there is a lot of emphasis which is placed on conservation education amongst the students. Then another thing is the livelihood. Whether we are doing anything for the livelihood of the local people. We have an excellent training center which has been established at the Prince Tiger River, which is managed by an NGO called Pratham, and we have offered them facilities of stay for the tribal boys and girls to come from all over the state, but more so from central India, and training in hospitality management. And I am very happy to share that most of these boys and girls, almost all, are employed in various places of the state and even outside the state, like Goa. And they get training. The part of the training is the money is shared by the Prince Tiger Reserve Foundation. Part of the money comes under the centrally sponsored scheme. Part of the money comes from the Pratham NGO. And they ensure that all these boys will get placement. In addition to this hospitality training, of course, we have other things like tailoring, agarbatti making. That is a big industry now. And we also train them in issues like computers and driving, as well as motor mechanics. So these are 2 areas where also they are trained. The ecotourism has picked up and it is providing a lot of scope to the people of around the PAs. Like in Tadoba, I think about 2,000 people are basically dependent on ecotourism in various forms, in the forms of drivers, in the form of gypsy drivers, gypsy guides. Then we have the local resorts, which are also employing these boys and girls. And we have small ancillary shops and other things which have been set up around the Tiger River, which is also providing employment. Another issue where we are giving a lot of importance is wildlife. And as you can see here, probably Maharashtra is the only state which has entered into long-term agreement with Wildlife Institute of India. We have a 10-year-long project for the monitoring of tigers co-predators and prey in tiger-bearing areas of Vidarbha. As well as we have other issues like understanding large carnivore conflicts in Maharashtra. So these are various ways in which association with institutes like WII, like DNHS, like other institutes, WCT, these people are also helping us in active management and research. Only in the morning, I happened to visit one of the rewilding stories of Maharashtra, which we are all keeping fingers crossed and hope that it succeeds. We have now been successful in, rewilding or rewilding one cub of the T1 tigress which was shot dead. It had to be shot dead in Pandarkauda in Yavatmal district. And the female cub is now it's around 3 years old. And only 2 days back it has been radio colored. And today, this morning, it made its first kill after radio coloring. Before radio coloring, of course, it had made kills. But that is why we now feel that it is fit for release. Got the necessary permission from the NPCA for its release. So this morning it has killed. Maybe we'll decide on its actual release in the next few days. And so we are, as I said, we are keeping our fingers crossed. Let us hope that this tigress is truly rewilded once it starts going out into the open. So we do that. This is the on the right hand side. On the lower side, if you see, this is the structure where we have been monitoring this tigress from its cub to now a full-grown tigress. And there is 24/7 data available every minute to minute because this is all monitored through closed circuit cameras which have been placed in the enclosure, which is a 4-hectare enclosure, where she has displayed all the behavior of a normal tigress. And that is why we now come to the conclusion that it can be revived. Then the other issue is transit treatment centers. Because as you know, wild animals are being found everywhere and these need to be treated. There is a lot of awareness amongst people and they are after us to, whenever there is an animal which is found injured, we need to pick it up and we need to send it to a transit treatment center. We have about 4 transit treatment centers in the state, which are doing quite well, and we have more are in the offing. So is it only the forest department? No, it is along with the forest department. There is a very important role of the judiciary, the civil society, media, and researchers. So all these stakeholders are taken. We have to take care to see that they are involved in most of the, not only in decision making but actual execution. And the media here is extremely active, and it helps us many times to see that things don't go against wildlife management as a whole. And these are things which I have already mentioned. We now have a plan for recruitment of veterinary officers. And we are trying to use modern technology to the extent possible. Are we complacent? No, we are not, and we can't afford to be. We are safeguarding our wildlife against the lurking threat. And it is just like a warlike situation, where I suppose the enemy is never. And hence, what is the way forward? We will try to safeguard the existing tiger habitat through linear development. We have to have linear development projects, but then they have to be accompanied by the mitigation measures. We have to manage because the human-wildlife conflict is going to increase by the day, and we have to minimize the negativity of the local people. This is what we are aiming at, and therefore we have to involve all the stakeholders. If we are talking about meaningful human tiger or wild animal conflict. And also, the most important thing is we need to have better management input for lesser known wildlife. Because It happens to be tiger-centric most of the time, but we have now have a study group who is looking into issues of pangolin poaching recently, which has been set up. So, species also. So that's it from my side. As the PM has said, the PM in 2000 has said the tiger conservation is not a choice but an imperative. So imperative it is, and we are trying to take up this challenge to the extent possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to request you to stop sharing the screen. Yeah.
I've done that.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll just have a look at what questions are there for you. So they are basically comments which praise your efforts. All your efforts have been lauded by the attendees. And I would request the attendees who are there, if they want to ask certain questions, they can directly ask, they can put on their mics and ask questions to sir. If there are any questions.
One of the questions that I see here is, what in your opinion can be a priority to reduce human wildlife conflict in and around the TAPR landscape especially?
I missed that.
Yeah. So,
hello, sir. This is Umesh, Dotekar.
Yes, Umesh, I can see your question. Thank you very much for your compliment. But then you also have a question which I think may be of interest to others also.
Yeah.
And it certainly is a very important issue, as I think twice or thrice I have mentioned in my short presentation, that out of the 312, we have 160 in one district. And we need to reduce it. But how to reduce it? There is a study group which has been formed. It's an residentship of the local PCF right now. So you can give your suggestions, because you have also been handled during your active service period. And I have given my opinion, which I think has come out in the press. It's not been a very something which has been very palatable to many people, but we are wildlife managers, we are not activists, and we have looked at this issue holistically, because, as I always say, we have to save the species. We may have to forsake some individuals in the process, but what I had recommended was two things. One thing is translocation of a substantial number of tigers from there. To be precise, the proposal said 50 tigers, which have to be translocated. And the proposal also said the other thing, because as you know, cats occupy any vacant space that is created. The moment you get a vacant space, it is going to be occupied by other tigers. So what do you do that? How do you control the population then? So one of the suggestions which I made, and let me be very frank, the basic reason for making that suggestion was basically to rake up a debate. And I'm happy that debate has been raked up. I had suggested sterilization of certain animals, because although it was wrongly reported that the suggestion was castration. Castration and sterilization are two different things. And I had recommended sterilization because you have to control the population. It's not enough to take away 50 tigers. And when I say 50 tigers, take away 50 tigers, it is not going to happen overnight.
Yes, sure.
Tigers, one tiger itself is very difficult. So removing 50 tigers is going to take time. Of course. So along with that, you need to do something. Now let us see what this committee comes up with. I don't want to influence their decisions. They are good people. They have a lot of experience in handling those areas. And let us see. If they come out with better solutions, I would be most happy. So
thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Any other question?
Can I ask one, sir?
Yeah, please, sir. Please.
Question, if I can take that, and then maybe we can go to Bharadwaj sir. The long-term monitoring of wild denizens is a good plan, so thank you. Concern for human-wildlife conflict, I'm sure Maharashtra Forest Department would be having all data on WPA in GIS support in-depth analysis. Yes, we are using the GIS platform, and that is exactly where the role of the Wildlife Institute would come in, where we have exactly we have to analyze where exactly is the conflict happening, what kind of conflict is it, because even if it is not a human death, it could be a human injury, it could be presence of animals in a human-dominated landscape, and we will be looking at that. But apart from that, if you have any other comment, please go ahead, Mr. Karyari.
Sure, sir. I have one more question. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Maharashtra Forest Department for a really phenomenal achievement in terms of protecting, preserving of the wildlife animals. And it has resulted in phenomenal growth of the population of animals like tiger. Sir, you have seen that now the animals have started migrating out from the protected areas, and you have well articulated the need of the corridors. So these corridors will be meaningful if in the non-protected areas we will have sufficient prey base. So that will call for perhaps nurturing by translocating population of prey animals and seeing to it that their population grows outside non-protected areas, then these corridors will really become more meaningful in addition to other things which you have already instituted and been done, like when the highways and linear structures are coming, you are facilitating the movement of the animals. But the basic requirement of food, I think that is the primary requirement, and that is what governs the size of the territory, because you have noticed that where you have evacuated the villages, despite that, there is a higher density of male and female both tigers, because there is a large prey base. So the fight is not for the small or big area, basically it is the fight for the food.
Right, Chavan Saab, your point very well taken, and yes, it is very important that when we are talking about dispersal, it is not only we have to look at the prey base, which is there, without which tigers which will disperse will be again dependent on cattle population, and if they are dependent on cattle population, that is going to lead to conflict. So the solution is not very easy. The solution is there, that we increase the prey base. We have to aim towards that. We are doing that through, reduction in providing resources to the locals in the form of LPG. If you provide LPG, their movement in the forest for firewood collection reduces. The habitat degradation reduces. Once the habitat degradation reduces, the prey base will get more food. The herbivores will get more food, and if the herbivores get more food, they are obviously going to multiply. And that is where the tiger comes in. But it's easier said than done. It's a very long process. It will take time, but that is the solution. I mean, along with creation of corridors, we have to ensure that there is food for the tiger or for the big cat. And only then this will be really successful. Till then, if it is dependent on cattle population, that is going to be a problem. So thank you for the suggestion. Anything else? Bharadwaj sir, आप कुछ बोलना चाह रहे हैं?
Nitin sir, first of all, thank you very much for this wonderful session. I think it was very informative. After long, I'm hearing you. Two small questions. Number one is, you said that a lot of tourism activities in the tiger reserves, which has provided livelihood to the local people. What happened during this pandemic? Because tourism was almost stopped. So how did the people manage during this period? That was one question. Second thing is, you said you have a lot of community reserves and conservation reserves now, and many conservation reserves are in pipeline. Do you have management plans for these category of protected areas also?
So let me take your first question as to what happened during the pandemic. Yes, it was a very bad time. There was a loss of employment. There was loss of income to the foundations because, as you know, the foundation money also goes into providing some sort of livelihood activities to the local people and some sort of developmental activities which also take place in these villages. So we lost April, May, June. Virtually March, April, May, June, which is the peak tourism season. Then, of course, we have a lean tourism season where only buffer tourism is allowed in the rainy season. And then we started around 1st of October. So now it's really picked up. So I think that is not an issue. But during the pandemic, we had to provide for ration for the people who were dependent directly. I mean, for the guides and for the drivers, we did provide ration in various places. A lot of NGOs and individuals also helped us in this. So that taken care of. We tried to provide employment. But as you know, the funds for management are very low, both from the center and from the state because of the diversion of funds to tackle this pandemic. So where there were 3 majors in a protection hut, that has been reduced to 2. But I think that in the next few days, we should be able to tackle that. We tried to provide employment in various forms for protection, but the fund constraint was there, and that was a major issue. Fortunately, these people have tied. They have seen through this period, and now, of course, things are much better because things are more like. The second question that you asked, that yes, we have, as I said, we already have 7 conservation reserves. We don't have a single community reserve in the state, but we have 7 conservation reserves, out of which 6 conservation reserves, the management plans are approved. So we have 1 conservation reserve, which is a recently notified conservation reserve, which is a Killari conservation reserve, for which the management plan is still not in place. But for the other, the issue was funding for conservation reserve. Because our centrally sponsored schemes don't mention, because they have to cater to about 700 PAs in the country. So I understand that further funding the conservation reserve. We are trying to get specific funding, assured funding from CAMPA. And in the recently conducted State Board of Wildlife meeting, the Honorable CM was kind enough to say that yes, we will give you assured funding also from the state plan scheme. So we have at least for all the conservation reserves, because otherwise just notifying it without providing it management input is not going to be of any use. So we are doing that, and the State Board of Wildlife has approved assured source of funding for the conservation reserves. I think that takes care of your question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Praveen Patil also had a question. He was raising his hand, so if I can ask him.
Mr. Patil, please. You are not audible, Mr. Patil. Not yet, please. You are not audible.
I think his mic is mute. I think his mic is on mute.
He looks to be unmuted, but
Anyway, if we can have
Pariyar has raised his hand. Dr. Pariyar, please.
Okay, can I make it up this time when his mic is not working?
Please, sir. Please.
It's really heartening to listen from you that you have also in your state. How big is the population size and which part of the Maharashtra they are? Because they have almost nearly become invisible in other states where they were supposed to be earlier.
Pariyar Sahab, did you speak about the Great Indian Bustard? Because exactly species I could not get.
Pardon, sir?
Are you speaking about the great Indian bustard?
No, wildlife population, sorry, wild buffalo you have talked about.
Yes.
Wild buffalo in the state.
Right.
And so I wanted to know what the kind of population and which part of the Maharashtra, because wild buffaloes have almost become extinct from many other places, and whatever population is left, that also is too small. So there is a concern whether really it's going to survive for long.
Right. I got your question. Wild buffalo, yes, they are existing. We have a conservation reserve called the Kola Marka Conservation Reserve, which was notified specifically for the wild buffalo. It is in the Gadchiroli district in Chironcha Tehsil. So it adjoins the Indravati Tiger Reserve of Chhattisgarh. So there is a population there. And recently the figures that we got was roughly about 25 wild buffaloes. But these migrating between Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra. So it's right across the border. So we have a population of about 25 wild buffaloes in Kola Marka. Okay.
So last week there was a bison which had moved to Pune.
Yes, there was a god, and Pune. If you Google Pune, then you will see that Pune is surrounded by the hills of the spurs of the Western Ghats, which come into very near to Pune, and there is a population of boar in those areas, and this must have migrated from one of those areas into Pune city, because initially when the location of the song was right, but it has crossed a major highway, the Mumbai-Bangalore highway. So that it must have done during the night, and once it has crossed, it possibly was not able to go back. So that has happened. It was a very unique thing. I think in 2005 or in 1990, late 1990s, there was a war, but after that we did not have. So it was a stray incident, hopefully, but there has been, if you permit me, I can say this with some degree of confidence, also, although not backed by scientific data, that during the lockdown, when everything was stopped, when everything was quiet, when vehicle movements were virtually zero, where people's movement was very low, that is the time which they never could go. So that is one of the reasons that we will have these kind of incidents elsewhere in the country also. Thank you.
Sir, I too was thinking at the same time, because here in Ahmedabad we found that the Nilgai have moved into the city of Ahmedabad during this lockdown period. So I was also thinking on the same line. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Patil, can you?
Mr. Patil,
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, please.
Good evening, sir. Thanks for today's your valuable lecture. It is very informative, and a lot of information we have got from you. One thing I was to ask you, that I would work as an anti-poaching unit in Mumbai, Thane, wildlife. It is a big hub for smuggling of wild articles and wild animals. Why the post was abolished from there?
It has not been abolished. It has been merged with the Thane circle. And recently I had been there and I asked them why was it, I mean, it can come back, because that was a very concentrated activity that was done.
I think it is very necessary. It's necessary post for that, particularly in Mumbai, for Mumbai.
Because the territorial guys are very busy in so many other things. So
Yes, sir. You have been the DC of Wildlife Thane. That's why you experience all those things, sir.
Correct.
I hope. Is there any plan?
I will take this forward. I can assure you that. No?
Sir, are there any plans that you can utilize the services of retired forest officers, their experiences for such cases?
We will certainly explore that. Thank you very much. And you have been doing this work, so we would like to have officers like yours.
Yes, I am interested in such things, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
There is some remark from Mr. Ravindra Vankade.
Yes.
Safari. Can we think of more such safaris where part of the excess population can be accommodated, can this be done on a BOT basis so as to ensure adequate funds? We can have large size safaris so that tigers are not constrained in small areas. Yes, we are in fact already we have moved a proposal for a safari in next to Taroba, as well as a safari in Tipeshwar, next to Tipeshwar. So that these excess animals are accommodated, along with more rescue centers. So that's another thing that is on the anvil. So unfortunately, we got stuck this year with this COVID issue and the fund-related issues with that. But we are thinking on those lines, and we have already put the process moving. We've got the process moving. So let us hope that what you have suggested is very important and it comes through. Thank you.
Well, I have one question to ask you, sir. It is for the larger audience who must be online. Like for the state of Maharashtra, conservation in the state of Maharashtra, what goal would you like to set for the coming 10 years and a vision for the coming 20 years, maybe?
Yes, I think the two most important things would be handling human-wildlife conflict. So by handling human-wildlife conflict, I mean putting in place the right kind of infrastructure, both in terms of good transit treatment centers, both in terms of also in terms of rescue units, which have to be set up in each forest division, whether it is territorial or whether it is wildlife. Because only then can the conflict issues be handled in a much more professional way. We have to become more and more professional on that count. And that is number one. And number two is concentrating on the lesser known species, which are quite a few in a state like Maharashtra. We have the otters, we have the pangolin, we have which is like the mouse deer, we have the vultures which have to be taken care of, and of course the great Indian bustard. But maybe it's rather late in the day. But still, we would still focus on species like the great Indian bustard, the lesser florican. So we have these on the anvil. We have the forest outlet, which is doing quite well now in Maharashtra in various places. So we hope. So these are two major challenges. One is setting up good rescue infrastructure in place with rehabilitation, rescue units, etc. Continues looking at the lesser known species, because otherwise it becomes too tiger centric. So we have to move away from that. How to do it? It's very difficult because every day there is something happening in the field because of the issues related to that. So the challenges that I feel we have to take forward.
Well, with this, I think, yeah. Any other question from the attendees? Any message for some youngsters? Some young induction level officers have logged in today. So, any message from you, sir, for them? They're just what's your entry?
I suppose one has grown old now and in a position to convey messages. Yes, the most important message is to get interested. Because unless you get interested, you are not going to do anything. So if you are now stuck with this service, so that is another thing that you have to understand. Having got stuck with this service, put your and put your heart wholeheartedly into what can be done. And there are a number of things that can be done for the betterment of wildlife management in the state. So that in short is the message that I would like to convey. Thank you very much.
Well, sir, with this, I think they have come to a wonderful end to this session, but with an opening for the future. And let us hope that we keep interacting more and more on this platform. And I would really like to thank you. It would have been nothing better than this as far as the wildlife scenario of Maharashtra is supposed to be known by a larger audience. And I think more and more people will benefit from the kind of presentation we have heard today. and we'll keep hearing from you in future also, sir. Wish you all the best for the goal you would like to achieve and for the vision you have set for the state of Maharashtra. On behalf of all the attendees and our online viewers, I would like to thank you for the session and also wish you all the best for the future of conservation in Maharashtra. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And my apologies for the initial hiccup. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.